All right, so we're gonna go over some vacuum lines and what's needed on these 4.6s. I'm gonna try to do it pretty quick, just so you can use it as a video to help. But on this brake booster here, you'll take the hose that goes to this big black box down here on the firewall. You can see the other vacuum lines like coming from your heater and your dash and stuff down here on this firewall. This big black box that's running right here. This 3/8 hose right here will go from your booster down to that. What you do is you'll take that hose, you'll unplug it right here off this intake horn, and you'll take this hose here off of that box and plug it into the intake horn. Once you do that, you can go to the other side of the engine, and there'll be a hose that comes out of there and comes out of that same black box that's back here and plugs into here. So what you do there is you just block it off. I got a bolt in there. It's a bone stock car. Not gonna put no money into it if I don't have to. That's sufficient for me. Works great. So that's what we do. It's fast and easy. On this port here, you don't need either one of these. So go ahead and pull that off, unplug it. Don't need it. You'll come around to the front of the motor. You'll have this vacuum line here, comes out of the intake, goes over to your PCV valve. I always zip tie my stuff. It all gets, the hood takes it out, pulls it off, whatever. So I always try to zip tie it also, put RTV around these, black RTV, and then stick it back down in there where it holds it. Those do pop out and they run horrible when it comes out. But next to that is another vacuum line. You can see I got a Phillips screw in there. That line would come out and come around. It would come out of here and come around and go into here. You don't need that. So when we unplug that, I take a little Phillips screw, little interior screw, and put in there and block that off. The other red line, vacuum line coming out of there, you do need. That comes out, wraps around, comes into your fuel pressure regulator. So that buttons up all of your vacuum leaks and vacuums. That's all you need. You do not need the one that goes on top of your EGR. There's no reason for that to open. It's not going to do anything. Never had an issue with it. If you want to put a little grommet on there with a screw in it, you can. I don't mess with it. So this is how we also do the intake. I'll go ahead and cover that while it's up here. You do have to keep your idle air control right here. This hose coming out does need to come into this little canister and then come around and come into your intake horn. This hose here comes down and comes into your blow by on your intake, or on your valve cover, I mean. You don't have to have that plugged up, but if you don't, I suggest you to plug this port here off on this intake tube, just so it's not sucking air between your mass airflow and your throttle body. So I always run mine, so if it does start blowing by or getting hot, it just sucks it back into the motor. No big deal. But that's one of the air filter kits that I make and sell. I run them myself, have for a couple years. We just take the factory intake tube and cut it and push the mass airflow up in there and clamp it. You have to fight it a little bit with a screwdriver, but once you get it going, it goes right up in there. And then I use an 1.5 inch plug on this side of the intake tube where it's got that big plastic chamber box that goes right here. I do away with that and put that 1.5 inch plug in there, and that just blocks that off. So for a quick build, fast and easy, that's what I'm about. That's what I try to teach and try to make everything simple. So that's about it for the vacuum lines. Let's see. There is a box right here on the back of the motor. You can also unplug that. It doesn't have any vacuum on it, but you can unplug it. I always just unplug it and tie the wiring up. Try to keep everything in front up on top of the intake, not behind it, in case it does pack back into that firewall. I do leave that vacuum box just because that's something else to push against the back of the block to try to hold the nose of the car down. I don't see a reason to really gut all that out there and leave that big open space for it to pack up against. So some people ask about this heater core hose. With these cars having this plastic nipple right here on this intake, these things are notorious for breaking off. This car here actually has a dormant intake already on it, probably because of that breaking off. But we just wrap it around, tie it right back into the hose. It goes right onto the back of the head onto the metal. And I try my best not to mess with these or mess with those clamps, because they get like antifreeze soaked and become really brittle, just snap off. So I always just use your regular worm clamps here and just come down and around and worm clamp it back here on the back. Sometimes, a little secret, sometimes you'll run this hose and, you know, put 10 foot of it inside the car just so you get a little bit more water. Wrap it up underneath the passenger seat, whatever you got to do just to get a little bit more water in there. I don't know what else we can cover real quick, but that's about it. Just remember, if you do that, you know, you ever drain the water out of your system on these 4.6s, they're notorious for getting air pockets. You got to belch the water out of them. A lot of people you hear say their 4.6 got hot quick. There's a good chance that they did not belch the system. So how you do that is you get a big funnel and you stick it up out the cap of the radiator and try to make a sealed system. They make a funnel for it, but you get the water up above. If your intake's here or your radiator cap's here, you try to get it up above the height of the motor. Try to get it up above your highest point so your air forces it comes out. Trying to think if there's anything else that I can explain. On the motor here, this is a cam sensor. So this car doesn't have it, but a lot of times we'll weld like a little protector here to try to protect this from getting broke off. This car, we didn't do it. This car was built really quick. So if you're wondering why it's got a green pulley on it, we always try to do that. You'll see my cars have that a lot. I do that so my buddies on the sideline can tell me if they start to see the car nosing one way or the other, from one side or the other below the core support, or if the core support's getting pushed back like that, so they can tell me from the sideline that they see it, just to give you a little bit of heads up that something's given, so they're starting to be able to see it out there on the track. If anybody has any questions, PM me. I do not care to show and help. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing people win. I enjoy seeing their kids, enjoying them winning, people getting their first win, people winning on a track they won from years ago. But that's about it. Everybody have a good evening. You got any questions or you need any help or want me to try to show something or a different video you can think of that I make, I will do it. I'll do whatever I can to help. And it's not Chevy powered, but it was a joke. See you guys.